Panic sets in. Liberal AG humiliated by police. Ford crushes Canadian firm. The atmosphere in Ottawa has shifted dramatically. Prime Minister Mark Carney is facing the toughest period of his leadership as economic turbulence collides with political embarrassment. In Durham, frontline police officers unleashed a stunning rebuke against Attorney General Shawn Fraser, accusing him of letting crime spiral and laws fail the public. For Canada's top law officer to be publicly dressed down by police has left the Liberal government scrambling, with critics calling it a humiliation that signals weakness at the heart of the justice system. The anger stems from a rising tide of violence. Gun incidents, carjackings, and brazen daylight robberies have left citizens feeling unsafe in their own communities. Durham police did not mince words, blasting Fraser for policies that, in their view, protect criminals while leaving victims defenseless. They listed heartbreaking examples: children caught by stray bullets, families torn apart by violent offenders released on bail, innocent people attacked in public spaces. For officers to openly shame the Attorney General reflects a collapse of confidence in the federal government's ability to maintain order. At the same time, the economy is reeling. Canada's GDP contracted 1.6% in the second quarter of 2025, the sharpest decline since the pandemic. U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs have hammered Canadian industries, especially autos, steel, and aluminum, wiping billions from exports. Factories face layoffs, investments are slowing, and business confidence is plummeting. The trade deficit has ballooned, leaving the government under pressure to show it can shield the country from foreign shocks. Carney insists Canada will weather the storm, but the numbers paint a grim picture. The backlash is amplified by Doug Ford's dramatic actions in Ontario. In a fiery protest, Ford poured out bottles of Crown Royal whiskey to condemn the closure of a bottling facility that will see hundreds of jobs shift south of the border. His theatrical stunt instantly went viral. But critics were quick to point out that Ford misfired. Crown Royal remains proudly Canadian, distilled in Manitoba, and the closure was tied more to global trade pressures than domestic mismanagement. While Ford scored headlines, industry experts accuse him of attacking the wrong target and putting even more pressure on Canadian workers. Beyond theatrics, the Carney government is rolling out austerity measures that mark a sharp break from Justin Trudeau's era of high spending. Defense, infrastructure, and key transfers remain protected, but the knife is falling on many other programs. Carney argues Canada must tighten its belt to meet NATO's defense target while investing heavily in infrastructure that can attract $500 billion in private capital. Supporters call it sober realism in tough times, but opponents see it as punishing ordinary Canadians just as wages stagnate and inflation eats into household budgets. The temporary foreign worker program has also exploded into the national spotlight. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has called for it to be scrapped entirely, claiming it drives down wages and squeezes out Canadian youth. Even British Columbia Premier David Eby, usually aligned with Liberal social policy, has warned that the program fuels housing pressures and undermines job opportunities. Carney has promised reforms, but insists the program is still vital for sectors facing chronic shortages. The divide highlights how deeply the issue cuts across political lines and regions. Meanwhile, the housing crisis continues to torment Canadians. In Toronto, modest bungalows list for nearly $800,000, out of reach for most families. CIBC economists warn Canada needs 5 million new homes by 2030 to keep pace with demand, double what current plans project. Critics accuse Fraser of ignoring his own department's warnings on immigration and housing, instead pushing policies that deepen the strain. With affordability collapsing, many young Canadians are losing faith that they will ever own a home, fueling political anger that cuts across generational divides. Carney faces international pressure as well. Trump, boasting about his Golden Dome missile defense project, claimed Canada was seeking entry into the system. The comments sparked immediate controversy. How could Canada, already cutting spending and staring at recession, afford such a costly defense program? Carney pushed back with a nationalist jab, warning Trump not to push Canadians too far. The exchange underscored the fragile state of Canada-US relations as trade wars, tariffs, and defense demands collide. Domestically, social tensions remain sharp. Palestinian flags at protests triggered heated debates, and companies like Amazon faced backlash for selling politically charged merchandise. The rapid removal of these products reflects how cultural conflicts are increasingly spilling into consumer markets, dividing communities and adding more friction to an already polarized climate. Carney must walk a tightrope, defending free expression while preventing domestic unrest from spiraling further. Ford, for his part, has not backed away from law and order rhetoric. He delivered a passionate speech supporting homeowners defending themselves against intruders, blasting what he called weak liberal laws. Yet critics branded him a hypocrite, arguing that if he truly wanted to stand up for ordinary citizens, he would push prosecutors and lawmakers to strengthen sentencing rather than offering empty speeches. The perception of inconsistency has left Ford vulnerable to charges that his tough talk is more about politics than protecting the public. Despite the turmoil, not all signs point downward. Inflation remains stable at around 2%, and domestic demand, consumer spending, and housing investment has stayed surprisingly resilient. The OECD believes Canada may narrowly avoid a technical recession, though growth will be weak. Still, public patience is running thin. Canadians want solutions that feel real and immediate, not abstract promises of future resilience. For Carney, this means translating economic strategy into tangible relief for households struggling with rent, groceries, and crime in their neighborhoods. The bottom line is stark. Panic is setting in across Canada as the Attorney General is humiliated by police, the economy staggers under tariffs, Doug Ford's theatrics dominate headlines, and the housing crisis crushes middle-class dreams. From Parliament Hill to suburban streets, Canadians sense a country in crisis. Unless Carney and his government can restore credibility with decisive, balanced action, the anger now directed at Liberals could reshape the political landscape in ways no one in Ottawa is prepared for.